Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Detroit. Super excited that you decided to join us again. And I'm here with a wonderful guest. I'm going to make sure that I don't say this name wrong because we've just had a nice conversation about your surname. And I am going to really try not to say this wrong. Margaret Launzel Penne.
You got it.
Yes,
That's perfect.
I got it. But you may not understand, but we had an internal joke here about the surname,
Yes, we
and I
did.
could have said something really, we would have had to censor
Right,
it.
exactly,
Let's put
exactly.
it- Beep. But it was a lovely story about how you met your husband.
Yes, it was.
Maybe we can tell you all another day. But Margaret, I had the pleasure of meeting you yesterday and invited you to come on here today because I thought you have so much experience to share with us. You are basically the CEO of Pop Experiential.
Yes.
Your current role, but you got over 30 years experience in the events industry, and Pop Experiential, which is now what you see is a COVID baby. Yes, you call it.
Yes,
you call it
I
that
do.
yourself.
I do call it that myself.
I wanted to check this because
Yes,
I didn't want to
yes.
call it that. What was it that happened? So you launched Pop Experiential post-pandemic. What was it that made you launch the business, and what is it that you focus on?
So I have been on both the agency side and the client side for a very, very long time. And I was working with an agency, and we had a project going into San Diego.
Yeah.
And it was loading in on February 28th, 2020. And we got a phone call from the client. This was a multi-million-dollar program. We got a phone call from the client that they were canceling for force majeure. And the woman that owned the agency that I was with, she had a very successful agency for 35 years. She wasn't sure if she could really withstand what that meant in terms of her business. And so she made a very difficult decision to close the agency down. So there we were. It was on March 20th, no job. The industry is decimated. And, I was fortunate enough to have had some virtual experience in the past. And my thought was that we didn't know if it was going to be a week, a month, who knew?
Who knew?
Right.
Yeah.
But I knew that people would still have to convene. People always have to communicate and meet and sell and exchange ideas. And so I called a couple of friends of mine, one in particular who has a platform that, and a guy that I really knew. I knew he understood the industry. And I started to contact literally family and friends and said, you think you can build something? And so we started the first iteration of the agency in mid-April 2020.
Wow.
And we did our first event in the first week of June 2020. And we did 150 digital events through the second iteration of the agency in 18 months. So it was just, and they weren't Zoom events. They were really like soup to nuts like this, but in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
And so for us, I didn't make up this phrase, somebody said it, but I totally believe in it, is that, I think to the industry in general, and certainly for us, COVID was a gift. It forced us to rethink everything. And we just have, we've just been blessed, over this period of time.
And and I think you're absolutely right. I think COVID, although as sad and as destroying as it was to certain things in certain parts of the events industry, I think it also brought some positives. Absolutely. We are now more ahead of the game. We are more agile than we used to be. No one saw that coming.
Right.
And we couldn't react quick enough.
No.
You obviously did. I'm
we
super
did.
impressed about how quickly you reacted.
We were just like, we had nothing to lose.
Very
right?
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
nobody was going to be working anyway.
Yeah.
So the worst they could do was not work,
Yeah.
and we just, we took a lot of young people who had lost their jobs because they were at the bottom of the totem pole. They were the first to go. And we said, you're smart, technology,
Yeah.
can we train you? And they were like, yeah, we'll do this. And so we just, we hired young people that were smarter and more nimble and more technology savvy than we were, and just parlayed our relationships and what we knew from the strategic part of event management and all of that. And, the blend of it was just amazing.
And that is a lovely thing to hear as well, that actually, as you said, some people really struggled with technology during COVID. And I remember prior to me being at InEvent, I worked for a company, and we actually gave hardware into retirement homes. because they didn't have laptops, they didn't have iPads, they couldn't connect with their family, they
Right.
weren't allowed to see each other.
Unbelievable.
And we were like, you know, we want to help them to feel like they can have a connection with their family.
Sure.
You know, so there was a lot of sort of generational gaps, I think, also over how people were doing it.
Yeah, I just think it forced everybody to just rethink it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, how can you do something either personally or professionally? I mean, I know a lot of people that opted to just say, you know, I had a great run. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to do something else, or I'm not going to do anything at all.
Yeah.
You know, so,
absolutely.
and you don't really have the opportunity sometimes in life to make those really deliberate decisions about yourself, your family, your profession. You know, you're just sort of there and doing it. So
there's a lot of people who's done a career change.
Yes.
You know, in the remote work element, right? You know, previously companies wouldn't consider them because they didn't think people would work. Well, now they know that they do, right?
Harder and longer.
Harder and longer,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
But then it gives a lot of freedom as well, right? Because you can work from anywhere. You know?
Yeah, and I think that there's so many positives about it. I really feel where any negative is with the younger set. I mean, if you think about it, we had that little conversation about how I met my husband, right?
Yeah.
I met him through an event. But you have, you know, when you're young and you're like in your 20s and early 30s and you're working remotely, that work defines your social environment as well. And I think that's a really difficult thing that they're grappling with. They're not out and riding the trains and doing happy hour, or weren't, you know, and now it's largely remote. And people like that too, because it gives you so much freedom.
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of the conversations we've been having, not only at this event, but the last few events we've been doing, is that we still need these in-person experiences, but we do need to get our content and our information out there via different tools.
Yeah.
So I asked someone else this question the other day, and I'm going to ask you the same, and I think I know what you're going to answer, but virtual events is still existing and is still there a need for them?
Yeah, I think so. We actually are in the process of completing a campus build for BMC software. And so BMC did their sales meetings, they did their customer events all in person. They had to make a pivot, but they decided to make a pivot in a very significant way, both culturally as a company and in terms of how they would bring their brand to market. And so they have an event coming up in October that they have a live event that normally would have been attended maybe by a couple thousand people, that is going to have maybe 200 key people that will be there in person in Miami. And then they'll have thousands of people that'll be on the virtual side of it. And they're really, they're very calculated about how they're doing it. The engagement piece of it is really important. It's not just pushing content out there, but it's really finding a way to envelop and engage the people that are in the virtual platform equally to the people that are in person. So
absolutely.
I don't think it's going away. I think that we're dealing with situations like companies that haven't had to send people places and spend all of that money, realize they don't have to do it. You know, now if you are working in an organization and you want to go someplace, you have to have a really good reason for spending your company's money. So
absolutely.
The dynamic has changed, but I don't think in a bad way. I think that if you look at the positive side of it, you can get your information out to so many more people than you could in person. You know, and the analytics behind it. I mean, it's just, there's too much that we've learned that it was just a Band-Aid for COVID. It really is, I think, changed the fabric of how people convene now.
It's all about strategy, really.
Sure.
As you said, like, they've now changed. You know, it's key to have a couple of people there in person, but they can also utilize the sort of online environment for it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
I bet, though, since starting the company, you would have seen a lot of various trends as well in the virtual and hybrid space, I'm assuming. What's the sort of key things that you've seen that we've gone through and we're still seeing?
So I think one of the interesting things is when we first would consult with clients on, they would ask us, what platform should I use, was the big question.
Yeah.
And so I remember having our first comparison grid. There maybe were like 10 companies on it.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, there were like 80 companies on it. Yeah. And then 12 months later, we just gave it up because you can't. So I think that the ad hoc solutions were really confusing. Yeah. And I think that from a client perspective, having to cut through that clutter and figure out what was really right for them. And then I think also too is that the better partners that we found were people that came from the event industry.
Yeah.
So the technology is one piece of it, but you really have to understand the mindset and how event people think. It's a bit different,
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. It's it's not just creating a software. If you don't know how people are going to use it in that right tool, it's never going to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even as you go back to in person, you have to you have to think about that strategy piece of it. Now just envelops a bigger part of it. And we're happy that it's coming back because we're benefiting from that in a significant way. We actually we're growing some partnerships. We're going to be working in collaboration with Red Rock Entertainment, which is a division of Live Nation.
Yeah.
Because they've got this huge production capability on the B2B and B2C, and then we've got this little strategic sweet spot of understanding how the B2B business works. So we're excited about that. But again, the virtual piece of it is a big play for them as well in the collaboration with us.
So that was going to be my next question. Obviously, we have seen the changes. People are trying to move back to in-person events. Some people are saying they just want to go back to in-person. Some are looking for hybrid alternatives. What trends are you seeing, and how has that changed your business? Sort of as you started off mainly in the virtual environment.
Yeah, I think that for us, we just it hasn't changed the way that we think. It changes the way we do things, right? But it hasn't changed the way we think. I think that for us, it's really about what people are trying to accomplish first and trying to figure that out with them. But I think that as we get deeper into it, we're finding that no matter how great the event is in person and how everybody wants to get back to it, attendance is falling off, anywhere from 50 to 70%, of people show up or making the decision to attend. Attrition is high. People are really comfortable not traveling and being able, and the whole home dynamic of who's responsible for what. So you don't want to be away for so many days. I think that as much as everybody wants to go back to in-person, I think there's always going to be a place for this sort of hybrid connection. The trick is in making it interesting and engaging, right? Is if you're just pushing content out to a digital, they're tired, they've got fatigue like crazy. So it's really about how do you bring that audience into the in-person space, where it all blends really seamlessly.
Yeah. So have you seen some interesting, so you talked a lot about engagement, both in a virtual environment, in person, and then obviously hybrid. What have you seen that's really cool and funky, like some new interesting ideas about creating engagement?
I think some of the fun stuff that we've done is the whole speed networking. Which I think, and there's a couple of companies that do it really well. Twine is one of them. Speednetworking.com is another that we've used. I think that it was a little bit uncomfortable for people. I mean, I participate in things before I recommend them to clients, and so you're sitting and somebody shows up and you have 5 minutes to talk about who you are and what, a little bit like this, but a little shorter.
Absolutely.
So I think that is good. I think that what we played with also was one of the most fun things that we did. We had a bourbon tasting with a trivia game. Now, though a lot of that stuff can be very trite, but when you think about it, it was for the Kentucky Kentucky Association of Attorneys, and they had been doing this bourbon tasting, and then they went into a trivia game, and they were toasted. They were toasted.
Oh my God! I want to hear what they answered.
So much fun. So I think that I think that the trend really isn't about the thing; it's about taking the risk, right? And stepping outside and doing something different and being okay with whatever the outcome is. It's funny. I said to my team, I normally have a team meeting at this time, and I said, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm going to be like live streaming, and I'm not giving anybody the link right now. And so somebody came back and she said, you know what? She said, everybody's been watching it for 2 years. It really doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're okay doing it is fine. You can flub it. Everybody's cool with it now.
You are a natural. I know you said you were like, you've done this more, but you are an absolute natural. And it's interesting as well because events is all about experiences, right? And if you think back about what do I remember as an experience during the pandemic. One of the best events I attended was a wine meditation.
Oh my gosh.
It was incredible.
Was it good?
I was like, how is this going to work? I'm going to sit here with a glass of wine and I'm going to meditate.
Close my eyes.
I did nod off. I absolutely nodded off. I am not a meditation person.
Right.
But I loved it because what they did is they used all the sort of senses. So like the smell, the taste, the feel, and like we felt
Love
the
it.
glass, like everything. And then we saw, it was incredible.
We did a Zen meditation for DMC. Had one of BMC, one of their sponsors was Dell.
Yeah.
And so Dell sponsored the Zen Lounge, and we actually had yoga in there and some, facilitated meditation, guided meditation, and it was great. It was really well received.
I love that, and it was exactly that. You just needed to think a little bit outside the box, right?
Yeah, I think that the way that we approached it and continue to approach it isn't whether it's in person, virtual, whatever it is. No. It's whatever. The only thing that you can't do at a virtual event, in my opinion, is shake someone's hand, give them a hug, or have a drink at the bar. Everything else you should be willing to do. So if you just have that same mindset in terms of whether you're doing virtual, in person, or hybrid, again, it's like what is the potential outcome? What are those objectives, and how best, and who do you partner with, to get there? Whether it's an app or the platform that you use, this technology that you have here. Like I've already told my team about it. I'm like, we can do everything that you want to do. Yeah, so
exactly.
The vista is enormous.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I enjoy the most as well is that as you said, you can't have a drink in the bar, which we all love, right? In the events industry, you can't shake someone's hand and give someone a hug, right? But I love the fact that actually now people are more appreciative of continuing relationships.
Absolutely.
In a virtual world.
Absolutely.
Whilst before, I remember if you were going to have a meeting with someone, you had to meet in person.
Absolutely.
People almost were scared to do relationships over the phone or via your email.
I know.
Whilst now it's standard.
Yeah.
Right?
It's really interesting. I recall just before the pandemic, we would have these weekly calls with clients, right?
Yeah.
We were doing them by phone. We weren't using Zoom, and Zoom was a tool that was, whatever it is that you use, it was readily available to everybody. But I'll tell you one thing, because I don't know how much time we have, but one thing and it became very apparent here, is this spirit, and somebody, I forget exactly what she said on the stage. I think she called it cooperatism. So instead of competition and cooperation, there's like this thing is, people I truly feel like we're at a place where we're all in it together. Yeah. And everybody's trying to lift each other through the attitude about forming collectives or, being open. Like for an agency my size, there are companies that never would have talked to a boutique agency years ago. Yeah. Right now, they're okay with it. There's like, people just want to, they really feel empathy. And want to, and everybody wants to lift each other, which I think is the most significant trend of all, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah, and that's what it is all about, right? It's achieving the end goal for the clients. If we need to work together by doing so, that's what we should do, right?
And we're stronger as an industry, as a total entity.
And as you said, people maybe have more empathy. People are kind. Never before where you have to be ready if a speaker can't come and appear on stage because they got COVID, right? Whilst now it's like, we
got you. We got you covered. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and you are a natural. You can come back and do this.
I'll do this for you whenever. Thanks so much. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you to all of those of you who've joined us online. If you're interested, obviously, in getting to know more about Pop Experiential, then please do reach out and, you can see what interesting things you've got going. Because they might use it in events in the future.
Yes, we might.
You might. A package and a half in one go, right?
We plan to.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back shortly with another interesting session. Thanks.